Voyager 1, which was launched in 1977, has been a quiet observer floating aimlessly in the emptiness of interstellar space for a long time. It was designed as a representative of human civilization, equipped with scientific equipment and a golden record that contained the sounds of Earth's music, languages, and aspirations. It has been sending back precious information on our solar system and the outermost limits of our sun's domain for decades. It revealed to us Jupiter's chaotic storms, Saturn's beautiful rings, and provided our first close looks at moons that proved much more lively than anyone had dared dream. Then, as it traveled past the heliopause, it became the first man-made vessel to ride beyond the shield of the sun and into the actual interstellar space. But in recent times, a surprising anomaly has arisen from the very depths of space. Voyager 1 caught something in motion in space. It wasn't a fleeting burst of radiation or an isolated glitch. This was a prolonged, coherent signal, something that moved in a manner no background cosmic phenomenon usually does, a rhythm that seemed to suggest something more intentional. The sensors on Voyager 1 are primitive, designed for a time when floppy disks and magnetic tapes were bleeding-edge storage devices. Its own systems were not programmed for this sort of encounter, but even in their old age they continue to be responsive to the surroundings. Its plasma wave subsystem and cosmic ray detectors are still sensitive enough to measure fluctuations in the medium's density, velocity, and magnetic structure surrounding it. In the last few months, engineers tracking the feeble trickle of data have seen a pattern developing in the streams. At first, it sounded like static, the type of sound one would anticipate from the general hum of the cosmos. But after some filtering and constant monitoring, they found that the signals were unlike anything ever recorded. The plasma wave system started to detect oscillations that pulsed with unnatural rhythm. They were not like the solar wind echoes or the weak shudders of interstellar turbulence. They moved in tempo, a rhythm that implied intent and structure, as if someone, or something, had inscribed their signature upon the emptiness. This movement was not just in the background realm. The directionality of the wave patterns that were detected indicated something moving through the interstellar medium, changing the surroundings as it moved. Voyager's instruments measured slight but quantifiable variations in magnetic fields, minor fluctuations in the charged particle density, and anomalous shifts in the otherwise stable noise background of the deep space. Initially, NASA scientists thought that Voyager itself might be deteriorating. After all, the spacecraft systems were never designed to function for nearly half a century. However, repeated cross-validation eliminated the possibility of internal interference. The signals were not the product of Voyager's own electronics or faulty subsystems. This was external. Something was out there, in motion. Voyager is more than 15 billion miles away from Earth now, past the heliopause, where the solar wind drops off and the interstellar medium takes over. This is a place people usually describe as empty, but it really isn't. It is occupied by a thin veil of particles, dust particles, and clouds of gas flaked off from long-dead stars that lived and died long before our own sun came into being. It is an empty, silent realm, where the measure of distance is light years and where motion, if present at all, is slow and glacial. For any object to be making sense and quantifiable changes in this environment, it would need to be gigantic, specially energetic, or possibly basically other than anything we've encountered. For something to have a trail that a half-century-old spacecraft built with 1970s technology could detect, it needed to have characteristics significantly beyond what scientists have ever thought possible in interstellar space. The movement wasn't constant either. Now and then, the pulses grew stronger, as if the source was moving closer, or at least changing course in a manner that brought it closer to Voyager's line of sight. It was not a natural drift. The universe is governed by chaos, by gravitational tides, entropy, and the gradual ambulation of bodies through currents of stars. But this aberration didn't belong to the patterns of random motion. The path indicated consciousness, or at least propulsion. The motion wasn't wild. It was deliberate. As more information came in, scientists back on Earth started modeling the waveforms. With supercomputers, they rebuilt the probable size and shape of the disturbance. It didn't look like the trail of a comet, an asteroid, or wayward planet. It was not like the pulsar signatures or black holes' radiation burps. The pattern indicated something dense, maybe not big on a planetary scale, but highly organized. One of the models indicated that it had a highly magnetic core with a sheath of unknown material around it. Another indicated that it was a localized object with a field so strong that it could deflect particles around it as it traveled. What continued to confound researchers was not that it existed, but its nature. It wasn't merely moving through space as a stone skips across water. It was interacting with its surroundings, warping the texture of the interstellar medium as if it were modeling clay. The evidence suggested localized distortions in particle density, as if the object was scooping or deflecting matter out of its way. Natural objects, even high-speed ones, tend to diffuse dust and plasma, creating tattered trails. But this process appeared to inscribe precision into the medium, cutting voids and arcs as if by intent. The implications were mind-boggling. Either this was some form of astrophysical phenomenon that humanity had never previously experienced, or it was man-made, the mark of something intelligent. The patterns of the signals became more sophisticated. The harmonics at the depths of the waveforms bore geometric patterns. Scientists discovered remnants of the golden ratio, nested harmonics that resonated prime numbers, sequences that felt less random and more coded. Nature produces patterns, sure, but those seemed layered, intentional, coherent. It was that which produced an astonishing hypothesis. What if Voyager had picked up not a message per se, but the residue of a propulsion system? Not chemical, not even nuclear, but something altogether different, a method of travel that bent magnetic fields, distorted plasma, or even nudged spacetime itself as it pushed forward. If so, then what Voyager detected was not a transmission but a footprint, an exhaust plume of physics far beyond our own reach. To humanity, used to burning fuel rockets and mass-ejecting engines, the concept of propulsion creating a signature imprinted in the very fabric of space was groundbreaking. And yet there it was, maybe the echo of a drive far more sophisticated than anything we dared imagine, a technology potentially superior to us by centuries, perhaps millennia. The potential reached far beyond astronomy. If there were interstellar travelers, then our own galaxy was not a void but teeming with invisible motion. Maybe civilizations cruised through its spiral arms undetected, their traces waiting in the wings for a small Earth machine to stumble accidentally across their route. The find compels us to pose disturbing questions. How much of the universe have we actually seen, and how much remains lost between the thin slices of our instruments? If Voyager had been pointed just a bit more in this direction, we may never have witnessed this. How many others went unseen in the emptiness? On Earth, the report stirred controversy. Some claimed this was evidence that humanity did not belong alone, that what Voyager discovered was a ship, maybe a scout or an observer, something that wandered not by chance but by design. Others called for caution, reminding everyone that extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence. But the data did speak for itself, ordered, coherent, meaningful. Even were it not artificial, though, it was unprecedented, a discovery rewriting our knowledge of interstellar space. Philosophers chimed in as well. If there was something out there that moved with purpose, did it watch us as we now watched it? Would it have flown past other solar systems, undetected and unobserved, for millions of years? Or had Voyager's detection been the intention all along, a willful breadcrumb left in the emptiness, a cosmic handshake waiting for us to see? These were questions that did not have answers, but remade how we saw ourselves. For centuries we had questioned whether we were alone. Maybe we are not. Maybe we're just behind times to see. Weeks became months, and scientists found one more layer of weirdness. The pulses began to synchronize, ever so faintly, with other events in distant space. Background radiation spikes, previously labeled as static, anomalies, or instrumental noise, started correlating with the anomaly. It was as if the object's motion was resonating with faraway zones, creating echoes across light years. If deliberate, this implied mastery of influence over vast distances. If accidental, then the magnitude of its power was unimaginable. Either way, it implied that this was more than just an object. It was a phenomenon. Then, of course, the shift occurred. Initially, the anomaly followed parallel to Voyager's trajectory, similar to two vessels on the ocean together taking the same tide. But then, over a period of weeks, researchers witnessed a deflection. Subtle at first, then unmistakable, the trajectory curved. Gravity alone might explain it, but the arc was too perfect, too efficient, resembling the kind of path an engineer would plot for conservation of momentum. This was navigation. Something, or someone, was steering. This awareness was possibly the most disturbing of all. It was one to wonder about remote happenings. It was another to observe hints of control, of purpose. If it had altered course, where was it going? Was it drifting aimlessly through the stars, or had it seen Voyager? Did it even see Earth, that small civilization which had been bold enough to launch probes into the void? The journey had implications for exploration. If its course could be traced, upcoming missions could catch up with it. New telescopes or other probes could collect more than information, maybe even pictures. This reawakened interest in long-duration spaceflight. Without Voyager, this moment would have gone unnoticed, consumed by distance. Now, it reminded us of how little we understand, and how much there is beyond our vision. It also compelled a rethink of space itself. No longer a fixed background, it was dynamic, alive, molded by forces we hardly understand. The interstellar vacuum was no longer simply a medium. It was an ocean with currents, waves, and maybe even ships that rode upon it. The galaxy map, once a chart of stars and clouds of dust, now suggested unseen players whose presence we only caught in distortion. On Earth, the discovery bridged disciplines. Astrophysicists argued about its physics. Engineers speculated about its propulsion. Linguists wondered whether the harmonics concealed the code. Mathematicians looked for underlying constants. Some proposed this was not communication in words but in resonance, geometry, and motion as a language. Perhaps the universe itself was a form of text, ready to be read by harmonics and ratios. Voyager had not encountered a message, but on a new kind of conversation composed in the medium of space.